could vary.
We are now recording and everyone from the lobby is in the meeting.
Right, thank you very much. Welcome to this public meeting of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. My name is Peter Biscoe and I am the chair of the panel. Unfortunately, my camera on my computer doesn't seem to be working, but I'm present otherwise. Sitting with me on the panel today are Oliver Klein, expert, Deborah Laidlaw, expert, and Nick Lawther, a community representative. We have a number of people who are registered to speak today. The usual speaking time is 3 minutes. No need to repeat your written submissions. You can assume that the panel have been briefed with them, but you can speak to the main points you'd like to make. And there's no need to repeat what others may have said that you agree with, beyond saying that you agree with them. There are three matters listed for the public meeting today and three matters for the non-public meeting items. The public meeting items on the agenda are 4.1, 29 Riddell Street, Manly, demolition works, subdivision of 3 lots into 5 and construction of 5 new dwelling houses with swimming pools, associated landscaping and parking as DA 2023/0299. Item 4.2 is 10A Lantara Road, Bayview, alterations and additions to a dwelling house, DA 2023/0954. I am recusing myself from participating in that one because of an apparent conflict of interest. Item 4.3 is 257 Whale Beach Road, Whale Beach, construction of an inclinator and associated landscaping works, DA 2023/0726. For completeness, I'll mention the non-public meeting items. At the conclusion of the public meeting, the panel will retire into closed session to consider both the public meeting items and the non-public meeting items. The non-public meeting items are 5.1, 42 North Stane, Manly, modification application 2023/0397, modification of the development consent 2021/2257, approved by the Land and Environment Court for alterations and additions to an existing building to comprise shop top housing and strata subdivision. 5.26 Quinton Road, Manly, alterations and additions to a dwelling house, a DA 2023/1398. And item 5.3, 27 Saguaro Street, Fairlight, modification of development consent, DA 2019/0011, granted for alterations and additions to Manly Golf Club. That's modification 2023/0493. And Ms. Laidlaw recuses herself from that matter on the basis of conflict of interest. Turn now to item, before we turn to those items, I note that the minutes of the panel held on the 1st of November were adopted by the chair and have been posted on Council's website. I acknowledge, as a sign of respect, the traditional custodians of the lands in which we gather and pay respects to their elders, past and present. Now I turn to item 4.1, 29 Riddell Street, Manly, that I referred to earlier. We have one objector registered to speak, Graham McKee of McKee's Legal Solutions, speaking on behalf of Barry and Co of Feldman. Mr. McKee, are you there?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Look, we support the refusal of the application. There are three matters which I wish to raise in relation to the report. The first is on page 15, which deals with the subdivision pattern, the top of page 15 of the report. The report notes that the proposal, this is in the last paragraph, that the proposal replicates the lot width of 95 Bow Street for the northeast, and the author of the report says that in this way the proposed development is not inconsistent with the existing subdivision pattern or street pattern. What we say is that there are no other battle axe blocks in Bow Street or Riddell Street or in this area. They are all street front blocks, and 95 Bow Street, which is the client I represent, in fact is a corner block which has street frontage to College and to Bower Street. So it's just an inconsistency, or it's just could be said to be plain wrong to suggest that the creation of a battle axe allotment with only a pedestrian access it could be considered to be not inconsistent with the prevailing subdivision pattern in this entire area. So we make that point. So we say that that the reason for refusal, there should be an additional reason for refusal that deals with part 4.48 of the council's DCP. The next comment I wish to make is in relation to page 47, which is privacy. Again, our base essentially because the development, we are effectively the only neighbour. The issue is one of privacy. Now it's a pretty well accepted principle, town planning principle, that the fact that there's a screen proposed existing even on our client's property shouldn't in any way stop there being a contention raised and there being attention given to a privacy screen being erected on the proposed ground floor recreation area adjoining the pool. The plan that is depicted at page 47 identifies the viewer, if you like, and relates only to the deck. There is also an additional overlooking issue, we say, down to the private open space at 95 Bower Street, and that's an area of concern. If you look at the sections in this area, there's a very large build-up to facilitate a basement and the swimming pool located as it is. And we say that there will be overlooking, which will compromise the private open space of our client's property, which is to the right or towards College Street, in relation to that yellow area depicted as yellow. And the final comment I'd like to make to the panel is simply that this development is described at the very beginning of the report as being for, I read the executive summary, the subdivision of 3 lots into 5 and construction of 5 new dwelling houses. We say that that characterisation is incorrect because there is a joint basement, and in circumstances where there is a joint basement, the proper characterisation is this is a development for multi-dwelling housing. Now that has ramifications in relation to the subdivision proposed. This application is for subdivision, and we say that as a that the development is properly characterised as a multi-dwelling development because effectively there are joint basements. The 2 lower dwellings have a joint basement, and the 3 upper dwellings also have a joint basement. So we say this is a fundamental problem with the proposal and something which the panel should debate and consider, and adding a contention or a reason for refusal in relation to that. So unless there's any questions, that concludes the 3 points that I wish to raise to assist the panel in hopefully rigorous and good decision making.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. Does the panel have any questions of Mr. McKee?
No, not from me, thanks.
Not from me, thank you.
And not from me.
With regard to your third point, Mr. McKee, a reason for refusal, what would that reason for refusal be? How would you formulate it? About the joint basement.
Yes, I think that it is potentially could be formulated in 2 ways. One is as an insufficient information. There should be an identification of additional information in relation to how the basements are to be treated. There are ways that can be treated in a technical or a physical sense, but the other way is just to simply raise a contention as to whether or not the development is properly characterised as a subdivision of 5 lots and dwelling houses. and leave it at that.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Graham, doesn't the fact that it's on the separate lots means that each dwelling can't be multi-dwelling housing, even though the physical form is linked?
It's a question. As we all know, there's a prescribed condition, which is the Building Code of Australia has to be complied with, and there's fire regulations. If it is a joint basement, then even though that we can legally characterise it as being a separate dwelling on a separate lot, the fact is that the joint basement means that, in fact, it is all considered to be one lot. Or in this case, two lots, because there are the two basements.
But that's under the BCA, not under the EPA. That's
right. But the prescribed condition, well, the court or the council wouldn't approve, the consent authority wouldn't approve a development that can't be implemented because of a clear breach of the NCC or the BCA.
Does the panel have any further questions? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKee. There are no other speakers registered to speak in relation to item 4.1. We'll therefore pass on. As I indicated earlier, I'm recusing myself in relation to 4.2, so I think we'll deal with 4.3 next, come back to 4.2, and I will then depart the meeting. So we'll move on to 4.3 next. Which is 257 Whale Beach Road, Whale Beach, the construction of an inclinator and associated landscaping works. We do not have any objectors registered to speak. There is one registered speaker for the applicant, Walter Barter of Walter Barter Design, speaking on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Barter, would you like to address the meeting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to address the panel today. I will refer to the itemised recommendation before you. In relation to the proposed development being inconsistent with provisions of clause 4.6 for exceptions to development standards of the LEP, I believe the request to vary a development standard prepared by Northern Beaches Planning, which you will have seen, has thoroughly addressed the issues raised. The objectives of the standard are achieved despite non-compliance with the development standard, namely zero impact on natural foreshore processes, allowing continuous public access along the foreshore area. There would appear to be no reasonable view that the precedent of an approved inclinator at 182 McCarrs Creek Road, based on safe and contemporary access as sufficient environmental planning grounds for approval, should not apply in this case also. Other examples of approved inclinators within the foreshore area along Whale Beach Road have been supported on the basis of being consistent with relevant provisions of the LEP. In relation to visual impacts of the proposal when viewed from a public place, we have submitted additional images demonstrating the complete lack of any visible portion of the inclinator due to the coastal topography of sand dunes and existing vegetation. The submitted photograph has been highlighted to show the foreshore building line aligned with the constructed timber retaining wall. You will see that no portion of the proposed rail is visible below that line. Once the landscaping of the area along the proposed rail is completed, even that portion of the proposed rail within the subject property behind the foreshore building line will be obscured by tree canopies and understory plantings consistent with what has already been landscaped in the property. Given the ground-hugging location of the proposed rail and its dark tones, it raises the question of how a highly visible elevated cantilevered swimming pool 8.5 metres above ground level and forward of the foreshore building line has been recently approved at the adjoining property at 255 Whale Beach Road. If the same measures of compliance alluded to in the recommendation were to be applied, the constructed landscape stairs have been installed for access to maintain the steep garden setting and as a fallback should the proposed inclinator malfunction. The proposed inclinator also addresses the right of our clients to have a reasonable, accessible solution to foreshore access, given the mobility issues in a permanent residence on a steeply sloping site. In summary, I understand that there has been a change of view on the permissibility of inclinators within the foreshore area, despite recent approvals. Given the proposal clearly satisfies the stated objectives of the applicable development controls, I believe the small departure from the standard and the absence of impacts consequential of the departure constitute environmental planning grounds to support the proposal before you today. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the panel have any questions?
I'll go. Thank you. Just one question. In your speech just then, you mentioned the phrase reasonable access. What does reasonable access constitute in your view?
Well, I think safe access to all parts of the property would be, I think, reasonable.
And to I'm looking for who would have reasonable access.
Well, I mean, my client, obviously.
Yeah, children, toddlers.
Well, in this case, my client, who are getting on in years, would be, I think, given reasonable right to access their waterfront area safely and comfortable way. I think it's quite reasonable.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Deborah Laidlaw, if there are steps approved, I think under the Land and Environment Court decision through landscape down to the water, are there not?
That's correct. Yes.
And you say they're inadequate, or
Sorry, I missed that.
you say they're not providing adequate access?
Sorry, what is not providing access? I didn't know.
The steps that are approved under the Land and Environment Court approval.
Well, the stairs are not essentially compliant with building code. They're only done there as a landscape solution to maintain the garden and so forth. If they were to be compliant with the relevant building codes, they would have to be much more elevated with handrails and the like, which would obviously be much more visible and indeed be a visual intrusion from the public place. So we feel
your client does intend to build them, yeah?
Well, we've already built the landscape stairs, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions the panel has?
Not from me.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Barter.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. So that finishes 4.3. That takes us to 4.2. As I indicated earlier, I'm recusing myself from sitting on that one through an apparent conflict of interest. So I'll hand over the chair to Ms. Laidlaw. After that item is finished, the panel, as I indicated earlier, will retire into closed session and will reconvene after 15 minutes to consider this and the other matters in the non-public meeting items. So I will now, for the reasons I've just given, leave the meeting.
Okay, item 4.2, 10A Lantara Avenue, Bayview. We have two objectors registered to speak. I think I've seen you both there. I think Andrew and Adette Ireland. Andrew, you're there?
That's right, Deborah.
And if you'd like, you're going to speak on behalf of both of you, if you'd like to start.
Thanks very much. I'm making some assumptions at the beginning because you've only given me a limited time. I know Craig's here, so he'll raise issues that affect other neighbours. And I assume that you've looked at our submission reports from the 14th of August, the 31st of August and the 18th of September, each of which incorporate a number of photographs, particularly around the entranceway and the what I call the hard stand parking area, which accommodates about 4 cars. You'll see some of the photos show up to 8 cars are parked at the hard stand area. We show the photograph of the right-of-way leading into the inside of a blind corner at Lantara, the narrow right-of-way that runs down over my property to 10A, as well as a number of other things. I've also, in the 18th of September letter, I've shown you cars parked up on Lantara Road, and there's a particular Range Rover which sits out onto the inside of a blind corner by up to 1 metre. This development application follows an earlier one of 2021. 2021 provides for the building of a third story immediately below our veranda. We have no trees that give us any screening or protection from the property. The property is built within 3 metres of the boundary, so from a spatial protection point of view, we have little spatial protection. There's no vegetation on 10A to give us any screening or baffling. We've had regular run-ins with the owner who lets the property as an STRA to encourage him to provide baffling, but he has elected not to do so. So when I look at the submission report from the council, I note that under EPAA, it actually states the proposed development will have a detrimental social impact on the locality, considering the character of the proposal. It also says it will have a detrimental economic impact on the locality, considering the nature of the existing and proposed land use. Some of the reasons that the council has said, but we'd still approve it, go to the tree canopy will provide adequate screening and noise protection. It does not. It says that we're spatially separate enough, but on a R5 property, we say it should be rural setting. And as I understand it, in relation to 4.5A of the PLEP, where changes are to be made, the objective is to ensure building density is consistent with the desired character of the locality. And pushing this building without changing it to within 3 metres of ours doesn't do that. The observation that there should be a 20-metre setback and the statement that this all happens outside the 20-metre setback, that's incorrect. The whole of the building, all the development changes to the building, both DA 2021 and the proposed 2023, would be within 20 metres of the boundary. So we've got 2 big issues with it. One is that there is a concentration and a funneling of people at the front door, which is the only access to the property. And when we have STRAs operating there, we have continuous noise, continuous laughter, continuous disturbances, both at the front entranceway, which is just below our balcony, our living and private space, and also because they're usually young people who come to and leave the property during different hours of the day and night, we have disturbances on the right of way, which is within 3 metres of our property, and on that side of the building are our bedrooms. I don't think it's good planning for the extension that went through in 2021, although I was
Andrew, if I could just stop you, you've
that.
had a little bit longer than your 3 minutes. Are you coming to you can bring it to a conclusion?
I was just about to, yes.
Yeah.
So DA 2021 incorporates a third story. This adds to that third story as well as the other 2 and builds up, but it is still within the 20 metres of our boundary. That's
Lovely.
it. Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you. Do any of the panel members have questions?
Not from me.
No questions? Okay, if we move on, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
To Craig. Craig Bernard.
Hi.
You could introduce
Hi,
yourself.
members of the panel. Thank you. I aim to keep this to the point and short. My principal aim as a homeowner is to address the social and environmental impact of this development should it go ahead. 2014, my wife and I bought 1 Kookaburra Close, so this home is directly behind us. So we're downhill of it. We're in a valley. At the time we purchased in 2014, 10A was not visible from our home because of dense tree canopy and native vegetation, which provided visual screening and noise baffling. In early 2021, we did not object to the application to extend the outdoor entertaining area because living there was a young family. We had no disturbance from them, so we thought, let live and let live. What we didn't realise was the motive, because in late 2021 is when our nightmare started. The owners left the house and it became an event centre for parties, large group bookings, corporate bookings, weddings parties, bucks party, hens parties, excessive noise, disturbance and sleepless nights, and of course lack of privacy. Added to which, and compounding the issue, is the owner developed a scorched earth policy with wholesale removal of remaining trees and native vegetation. We've got 4 separate video recordings dating back to 2020 supplied to council, collected by council environmental officers on a USB stick in February this year, where unlicensed non-arborists were just going wholesale with chainsaws, taking down everything banksia and protected trees and vegetation. Time the council got there, it was unfortunately too late. We've got excessive number of numerous sound recordings, audio recordings provided to council via the noise app of excessive noise into the early hours, weekdays and weekends. The police have been alerted on many occasions to break up the parties. My plea to the panel, please deny this application. Its sole objective is to increase its entertainment and accommodation footprint for more dollars. And this is only about dollars. They don't live there. We're a semi-retired couple in our 60s. This was supposed to be our forever home, living in peace and harmony amongst the trees and what was once abundant wildlife. We're voters, we're ratepayers. We surely deserve the right to privacy, not to be overlooked, and protected against excessive noise, mental well-being, and quiet enjoyment of our home. I understand the panel is not required to make physical inspections. This I can't fathom when so many neighbours are affected, and I therefore invite you to physically visit our home before determining the likely impact of this application. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Craig. Any questions from the panel?
Craig, Nick here. Just to fill it out a little bit from your point of view, the occasions of people being at the house and parties, bucks or weddings or whatever they are, obviously would be more of a problem in summer, I'm guessing, but typically in a year, the last year, how many instances are we talking about?
I don't have that number in front of me, Nick. Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, obviously during the winter months, lots of rain, etc. Then the patio doors to the pool area, which is really where the entertainment is. Probably people have been more indoors, but certainly anticipating any time now, right through to the end of the summer holidays and probably up to about Easter. It's not just holiday events. We've had corporate, we can hear the speeches, it's corporate events. And whilst the home is only registered for 13 people sleeping there, you can count the cars. There must be at least 30 people there making a lot of a hullabaloo and don't care. So I would say it's tailed off probably towards, Andrew would be more specific. Probably Andrew's probably kept records. It's been quieter, I have to say, the last 2 or 3 months. It's been absolute bliss because we've been forced to go away at weekends just to get away from it. Yeah, if that answers your question, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty constant. You can see the bookings. The bookings are available on booking.com, Airbnb, so the calendar's available. You can see when it's booked out. Thanks.
Okay.
Is there anything else from the panel?
Not from me, thank you.
Not from me.
Well, thank you everyone who's presented today. Appreciate it that you giving your time to explaining your concerns. That draws to a close the public part of the meeting, and the panel will leave this meeting and reconvene to go into the non-public matters for discussion and determination. Thank you again. Goodbye.